The recent talk about impeachment has fueled the campaign fundraising drive. Some of the 2020 candidates released third quarter numbers out today. Bernie Sanders tops the list, pulling in $25.3 million from about 1.5 million donors. The average contribution, about $18. Pete Buttigieg pulled in just under $20 million, $5 million less than what he raised in the second quarter. And Cory Booker took in $6 million. That's a 30% increase.
And here with us now are Gabby Orr, White House reporter at Politico, and CBN News chief political analyst David Brody. Both of you, thank you for joining us. Gabby, so Elizabeth Warren, she is eating into Bernie Sanders' progressive base, but these new numbers that he is pulling, he is still a force to be reckoned with.
He absolutely is, and I think that these numbers show, especially the amount of donors that the $25.3 million figure came from, really shows that there is still a great deal of enthusiasm behind him, and conventional wisdom would suggest that Elizabeth Warren is slowly pulling away from his progressive base of supporters. But I do think that a lot of the gain that we've seen her have over the summer has been drawing away from Kamala Harris as opposed to Bernie Sanders. That's been borne out in polls. I've talked to Democratic strategists who have also said that sort of the Sanders shift to Warren is a bit overplayed, and I expect that we'll continue to see that just based on his fundraising numbers.
David, how do these numbers translate to the rest of the field, especially those like Kamala Harris and others who are polling in the single digits?
Well, Kamala Harris has some shake-up problems of her own with her campaign, and Pete Buttigieg did very well, 19+ million, though he's having traditional fundraisers along the way, so it kind of skews that number a little bit. Bernie's number more organic. I think this could be a potential problem for Joe Biden here, because Bernie continues to attract a lot of money. Elizabeth Warren, we know, is attracting a lot of money. That's where the pulse is. That's where the oxygen is. Clearly, that's where the money is, too, though Biden is doing pretty well, but he's doing it traditionally. So we'll see if the money follows the polls. But I got to tell you, I still go back to 2016. I think that was Bernie's year. He can talk to the DNC and take it up with them in a lawsuit if he wants to. I'm just kidding around with the lawsuit. But Elizabeth Warren seems to have the momentum still.
David, turning to impeachment, Republicans reportedly raised $15 million in the wake of this impeachment inquiry. The RNC and Trump campaign pulling in more than $210 million since the beginning of this year. No matter who the eventual nominee is, that's a huge war chest challenge.
For sure, and they're going to need every penny of it because they're in a whole lot of trouble. And when I mean trouble, I'm talking about political trouble. I mean, there is an impeachment that is pretty much not only just underway, but it looks like it's going to happen. I mean, there's no way Nancy Pelosi can go back at this point unless there's some sort of an anti-smoking gun the other way, which I don't see that happening. So they'll need all that money, and they're doing a great job of it. But, you know, Donald Trump can easily just put his foot in his mouth, and that'll be the end of that. So we'll see. I think that there's a lot that remains to be seen here.
Turning to the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, reportedly was in on that Ukrainian phone call with the president. Pompeo struck a defiant tone today. Gabby, do you think it's possible that we might see his subpoena for him, just like we've seen with President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani?
With the way that things have gone so far, I expect that almost everybody in Trump's orbit is going to face a congressional subpoena or at least be invited to testify behind closed doors or publicly before the House Judiciary Committee. And I do think that the more we know about whether Pompeo played a role in that July 25th call with the Ukrainian leader will indicate whether or not he does face a subpoena. If he's in close proximity to the transcript that was released and had some involvement, it's more likely that he will be drawn into this by Democrats. If he wasn't, then I do think that the odds decrease a bit. But, you know, Rudy Giuliani has faced a subpoena now. Corey Lewandowski has been invited to testify, unrelated to Ukraine, but still was invited to testify. I just think that that's the trajectory that we're on.
And a quick little 10-second addendum to that, in addition to just say that this is a run-out-the-clock strategy. I don't think there's any question about it. All these witnesses, all these subpoenas. Mike Pompeo, I'll get back to you October 4th, October 11th, October 18th. Go ahead. You guys try to impeach me in January 2020 is what the administration is going to say, and that raises a whole different issue.
Yeah, Gabby, really quickly, you're out with a new piece about Vice President Pence being ready in the wings should President Trump be impeached. That's a big if, a big should. This has created some tension between the two.
It absolutely has. I spoke with a number of people who are close to the vice president, and some of them were sort of taken aback by that comment that the president made during his press conference at the UN General Assembly when he said to reporters, you should look at Mike Pence's phone calls with his Ukrainian counterparts. Look at the conversations that he's had with Ukrainian officials. There were some people inside the White House who told me that was totally innocent. It was just the president saying, there's nothing to hide in my phone calls. There's nothing to hide in my vice president's phone calls. But there were others who took that as the president suggesting that if the time comes and he feels threatened by his vice president or threatened by impeachment, that he could very well throw him under the bus.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Gabby and David, thanks so much for being with us.